are birds so rare that science can barely photograph them alive. Creatures whose feathers shine like liquid jewels under the filtered light of the planet's most ancient jungles. What makes these birds so extraordinarily different from all others? Why do some of them dance secret rituals that no human being has ever completely filmed? And most disturbingly, why are they disappearing before the world even discovers their existence? In the misty mountains of Borneo, where 60-million-year-old tropical forests climb vertical slopes up to 2,500 meters in altitude, there exists a kingdom forgotten by time. Here, where permanent clouds trap humidity at 95% throughout the year and temperatures oscillate between 18 and 26 degrees Celsius, an extraordinary group of galliform birds evolves in absolute secrecy. From the coastal jungles of Malaysia to the isolated peaks of Palawan in the Philippines, passing through the temperate forests of the Japanese archipelago and the frozen plateaus of the Qinling mountain range in China, these birds inhabit the last fragments of virgin ecosystems, biological islands separated by millions of years of evolutionary isolation, where each mountain created its own feathered jewels. In the impenetrable heart of the Borneo Mountains, where ancestral roots intertwine like arteries of a living organism, walks silently the Bornean peacock pheasant, Polyplectron schleiermacheri, a creature that appears to have been painted by divine hands in a moment of absolute inspiration. Its compact 50-centimeter body hides a devastating visual secret. Each tail feather carries metallic electric blue eyes surrounded by rings of molten bronze and iridescent emerald green, creating a hypnotic mosaic that defies any human description. When the male detects movement in the eternal twilight of the forest, something extraordinary happens. He opens his tail in a perfect fan, tilts his body at a 45-degree angle, and begins to tremble his feathers at such a high frequency that the metallic eyes seem to pulse with their own light, a display that science has recorded only 17 times in the wild. Each ocellus reflects ultraviolet light invisible to the human eye but perfectly visible to females, creating a secret message coded in wavelengths that our species will never truly be able to witness. The sound produced is equally disturbing, a low-frequency deep hum that vibrates through the forest floor, announcing his presence to any female within a 200-meter radius. But there is a terrible cost to such beauty. Illegal hunting has reduced their populations to isolated fragments, transforming this feathered artist into a ghost of his own forest. In clearings where hundreds once danced, today only tracks remain in the mud and the heavy silence of imminent extinction. Scientists estimate fewer than 2,500 surviving individuals across all of Borneo, scattered across increasingly smaller areas, while chainsaws devour their habitat at a speed of 3 football fields per hour. And yet, on mornings covered with mist, when rays of sun pierce the canopy like divine spotlights, a male occasionally emerges from the green darkness, and for brief seconds, the world witnesses a miracle that should be eternal. In the same forests where the peacock pheasant whispers its luminous secrets, another creature dominates the kingdom of shadows with an even more imposing presence, Lophura ignita, the crested fireback pheasant, whose scientific name literally carries the word ignited in Latin, and for devastatingly obvious reason. The male of this species appears to have stolen embers from the center of the earth. His blue-black plumage serves only as a canvas for the true spectacle, an erect crest of crimson metallic feathers that explode from the top of his head like flames frozen in perpetual motion, while his naked face glows in scarlet red so intense it seems to radiate its own heat. But the most disturbing element is not in his appearance, it is in his behavior. During mating season, between February and May, when tropical rains transform the forest into an aquatic cathedral, the male Lophura ignita executes what ornithologists call the dance of absolute dominance. He locates a specific fallen log, always the same year after year, and begins to march on it in perfect military steps while emitting explosive calls that echo for kilometers. Deep guttural sounds intercalated with sharp whistles that scientists recently discovered are precise imitations. Of predator calls designed to test the courage of observing females. Those who do not flee prove themselves worthy. Those who remain and approach receive something even more shocking. The male inflates facial skin sacs up to 3 times their normal size, transforming his head into a pulsating alien mask while dragging his wings on the ground in hypnotic circles, producing friction sounds that perfectly imitate the noise of snakes sliding through dry leaves, another evolutionary courage test refined through millions of years. Populations of this species exist fragmented between Borneo, Sumatra, and the Malay Peninsula. But recent genetic studies revealed something disturbing. The populations are so isolated that each island has developed subtle variations in their mating rituals, creating behavioral dialects that may eventually transform them into completely distinct species. While Lophura ignita dominates the lowlands with fire and theater, an even more enigmatic creature inhabits the misty mountains above 1,200 meters. The bulwer's pheasant, Lophura bulweri, absolute lord of the altitudes, where rarefied oxygen and perpetual fog create conditions that very few birds can endure. This pheasant developed an adaptation so specific to mountain cold that its blue-black plumage possesses a unique microscopic structure. Each feather contains pockets of trapped air that function as natural thermal insulation, allowing it to survive temperatures that drop to 12 degrees Celsius during monsoon nights, conditions that would kill its lowland relatives in a few hours. But the true singularity of Bulwer's pheasant lies in a characteristic that science has only begun to understand. Its absolutely pure white tail, composed of modified feathers that reflect 89% of all incident light, transforming it into a living beacon during the twilight moments when it emerges to feed. Behavioral studies revealed a disconcerting pattern. Unlike all other Lophura species that perform elaborate displays, the male bulwer simply walks to an open area at dawn, positions himself against dark vegetation, and remains completely motionless, letting his white tail do all the work, capturing the first solar rays and transforming itself into a resplendent torch visible at more than 500 meters distance. The message is clear and brutal. I am here, I am visible, and I am so superior that I do not need to hide. This confidence has a price. Local hunters developed specific techniques to find them, following the white glow through binoculars in the early morning hours. Fewer than 1,000 confirmed individuals remain throughout their distribution range, confined to mountainous fragments of Borneo, where primary forest still resists. And each passing year, when biologists return for population counts, they find fewer white beacons piercing the morning mist, as if the mountains themselves were slowly turning off their lights. But in the humid lowlands of Borneo, where rivers serpentine through valleys covered by triple canopy so dense that noon seems like eternal twilight, there exists a creature that defies all conventions about camouflage and survival. The crimson-headed partridge, Hematortix sanguiniceps, whose scientific name literally means blood partridge with bloody head, an anatomically precise and visually terrifying description. This compact bird of only 35 centimeters chose an evolutionary strategy radically opposite to discretion. While its body is covered with earthy brown feathers that blend perfectly with forest litter, its head and neck explode in crimson red so intense and saturated that it appears to have been dipped in fresh paint, creating a contrast so shocking that predators often hesitate for crucial fractions of seconds, confused by the appearance of serious injury in a clearly healthy and agile bird. But the true mystery of this species is not in its disconcerting appearance. It is in its social behavior, absolutely unique among pheasants. While practically all related species are solitary or form pairs during reproduction, the crimson-headed partridge lives in stable family groups of 8 to 15 individuals that remain together for consecutive years, developing complex hierarchies and cooperative behaviors never documented in other galliform birds, including a rotating sentinel system where specific individuals assume vigilance shifts while others feed, emitting alarm calls in 3 distinct frequencies depending on the type of predator detected. Sharp chirps for birds of prey, repetitive clicks for terrestrial mammals, and prolonged hisses for snakes. Scientists studying this species discovered something even more disturbing. The groups develop local cultural traditions, specific foraging techniques, and preferred escape routes that are taught from generation to generation, varying significantly between populations separated by only 15 kilometers of forest. When a group is exterminated, it is not just individuals that are lost. Accumulated knowledge through decades is lost. Behavioral libraries that will never be reconstructed. Thousands of kilometers from the equatorial forests of Borneo, in the cold, temperate mountains of the Japanese archipelago, where snow covers volcanic slopes for 5 consecutive months and temperatures plummet to -10 degrees Celsius, reigns one of the most spectacularly ornamented creatures of the pheasant family, the copper pheasant, Cermaticus soemmeringii, Japan's national bird that appears to have been forged in precious metals by celestial artisans. The male of this species carries plumage that defies simple description. His entire body shines in tones of metallic reddish copper intercalated with burnt bronze-colored feathers, each one bordered with black lines so fine and precise they appear to have been painted with single-hair brushes. But it is his tail that provokes genuine astonishment. 150 centimeters of feathers, striped in a pattern of horizontal bars, alternating chocolate brown and golden cream, creating a hypnotic. optical effect when moved that resembles frozen waves in fossilized wood. During courtship, executed exclusively in moss-covered clearings where filtered light creates an ethereal atmosphere, the male assumes an impossible posture. He tilts his body forward at a 70-degree angle, drags the tips of his wings on the ground, producing the sound of dry leaves being swept, and then begins to slowly rotate in perfect circles while raising his tail vertically in a complete fan, transforming himself into a living wheel of geometric patterns that seem to pulse and breathe. With their own movement. Females watch hypnotized while the male completes exactly 7 circles, always 7, never 6 or 8. Ritual precision whose evolutionary significance remains a total mystery to science. But in the Japanese mountains, where urban development has already consumed 68% of the original habitat and bullet train lines cut through ancient migratory routes, these performances are becoming increasingly rare. Populations fragmented in isolated mountain islands begin to show signs of inbreeding. Shorter tails, less intense colors, rituals executed with less precision, as if the very essence of the species were slowly diluting. While the copper pheasant dances under Japanese snow in the arid and frozen mountains of the Qinling mountain range in central China, where sparse vegetation struggles to survive brutal winters of minus 20 degrees Celsius and winds that reach 120 kilometers per hour, inhabits one of the most surprisingly adapted birds to extreme conditions. The brown-eared pheasant, Crossoptilon manchuricum, a creature that appears to have been designed specifically to challenge everything. We know about avian survival limits. This robust 75-centimeter bird developed plumage so dense that scientists counted up to 12,000 individual feathers in a single specimen, 3 times more than tropical pheasants of equivalent size, creating thermal insulation so efficient that it can maintain a body temperature of 41 degrees Celsius, even when exposed to freezing windstorms that would kill unprotected humans in less than 1 hour. But the most striking characteristic is not its resistance, it is its absolutely singular appearance. But if there exists a creature that synthesizes all the impossible splendor of this bird family, it lives in the mountainous islands of Palawan, in the Philippines, the Palawan peacock pheasant, Polyplectron napoleonis, named after Napoleon Bonaparte not for military conquests, but for carrying in its body a concentration of visual splendor so excessive that it seems to steal light from everything around. The male of this species possesses 72 ocelli, perfectly circular metallic eyes mathematically distributed throughout his plumage. each measuring exactly 2 centimeters in diameter and shining in gradients that transition from sapphire blue in the center to jade green on the edges and amethyst violet in the outer rings, creating a living kaleidoscope that completely changes color depending on the angle of observation due to the nanocrystalline structure of its feathers that fragments. Light into all wavelengths of the visible spectrum. During courtship, executed exclusively in specific clearings that the male meticulously cleans by removing each leaf and branch, work that can take weeks, he positions himself so that sun rays strike his plumage at an exact angle of 60 degrees, maximizing iridescent reflection, and then begins a performance that ornithologists describe as kinetic hypnosis. Lateral tail movements at increasing speed while the body remains perfectly static, creating an optical illusion that the ocelli are multiplying and orbiting around him in an impossible spiral. The effect on females is measurable. Eye-tracking studies showed that they enter a state of visual fixation where they blink 60% less than normal and move their heads in perfect synchrony with the male's movements, literally hypnotized by the mathematics of his beauty. But in Palawan, where deforestation has already consumed 83% of the original forest, these courtship clearings are disappearing at an alarming rate. Populations estimated at fewer than 1,500 individuals struggle to find adequate space where sunlight can still penetrate the fragmented canopy. And without light, the ocelli become invisible, the rituals become useless, and the species silently slides toward non-existence while the world continues spinning, indifferent to the erasure of one of the most extraordinary visual spectacles that evolution has ever created. These birds are not simply beautiful. They are living libraries of evolutionary strategies tested through millions of years, each feather a mathematical theorem of survival, each call an ancestral poem that resonates from times when continents had different shapes and humans did not yet exist. While you watch these words, a peacock pheasant is opening its tail in a forest that no one else will see, dancing for an audience of mist and silence, executing a ritual that may be the last of its lineage. If these creatures disappear, we will not lose only birds. We will lose mirrors that reflect who we could be if we chose beauty instead of destruction. Touch the like button if you believe these feathered jewels deserve a future. Subscribe to witness more mysteries that nature still hides, and leave in the comments, which of these impossible birds left you speechless? Because as long as there are those who care, as long as there are those who witness, these creatures of fire and light still have a chance to continue their eternal dance under the ancient trees. And perhaps, just perhaps, our descendants may still be able to see what we are. Dangerously close to losing forever.